YouTube vintage audio stereo restorers, people who love turntables, things like that. This is one of my just talking videos. I don't do this very often, but I just thought it would be of interest. I follow Skylabs Audio, and if you guys are watching this, you're doing an awesome job. You know, like videos are really awesome, and you're right on the money with the things you say. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about more today is the business side, because I do a very similar thing. I'm a little smaller scale. I work from my home, but I restore vintage electronics. I restore them to sell. If I restored to collect and didn't sell, this entire place would be filled to the ceiling with stuff. That's how much stuff I bought and restored over the years. Hundreds of tube radios, hundreds of stereo receivers, amps, tape decks, turntables, that kind of stuff. CRT TVs as well, and of course 35mm cameras. They're all kind of things that I've enjoyed over the years, and frankly I don't know how it's lasted so long. It's a thing that this stuff is still really wanted. Especially, I've noticed several surges in film photography lately. Film is just as available as ever. It is very reasonably priced. And buying vintage audio gear is very much the same. There is some really good audio gear being made, but it's at a high-end price. You can restore something from the 70s and you have a high-end piece, I say at maybe a quarter to a fifth of the price, which is kind of neat. But this is where I'm kind of running into problems lately in restoring the stuff. I'll just give you an example here. I bought some capacitors, and it's basically enough capacitors to do, I don't know, maybe 3 stereos. The price has gone up on this stuff, and the availability. There used to be a place in town here, there used to be several places. Oh, I need a few resistors, I need a few caps, a couple transistors. Oh, after lunch I'll get in my car and drive there. It's gone. There's one place still open, and they're phasing the stuff out, and they don't have, they used to buy a lot of surplus stuff. There used to be stuff from some of the source stores that were closed. It's all gone. So basically, transistors that you could substitute into some of the 70s gear that uses quasi-complementary configuration, that type of stuff, they're getting harder to find. And then of course you have environmental regulations limiting the amount of lead in parts. And of course, why would a company build, you know, capacitors that fit a World War II radio if they only sell very few? Like, these companies that make these caps are large scale. I guess what I'm saying is the price for the parts has gone way up. The interest is there. I'm working on stuff all the time. I have a couple pieces right now that I'm holding for some customers. One is a restoration in progress. It's been much more difficult restoration. Some of these, you know, things have been sitting in a damp place for years, and you know, you've got to replace every transistor, you've got to replace controls, resistors, caps. Then you have problems, you use some replacement parts because the originals aren't available, and you run into bias issues. I have one right now, it's a Kenwood KA2500. The bias, I put new transistors in because the outputs were blown, the drivers were blown in one channel. It was a real mess, and you need to balance them. The transistors I was getting, I can't get anymore. So I had to look up another substitute with similar results. And we could get into that another time, but they don't work properly. The bias is unstable. The thing is right on the edge of thermal runaway. It sounds good and everything, but it's running way too hot. Not supposed to be that way. Now I've had to do some re-engineering on it. Different thermistors on the heat sinks and everything. Like, it just, the hours go by, and then all of a sudden you're into a unit and you go, wait a minute, I've got 3 weeks into this thing, 20 hours, and oh, I can only get $200 for it. There's my point right there, or 300, whatever. Um, some of them, you've got the stage that they're at in their lives, 50-year-old components, 60-year-old components. I'm sorry, you got to replace a lot of stuff in them. For them to sound as good or better than they did when they were new, you have to do significant replacement of parts. If you want to get the noise floor down, those old transistors like the C458s, which I've talked about before, you've got to change them all, not the noisy ones. Don't hope for the best. Because stuff does come back. If you only fix what's broken, it comes back. Sometimes it doesn't even make it to that point. I'll put it in my main system to try it for a few days. Boom, blows. It's just like, well, that wasn't even the problem I fixed. No, it's just the fact that it's turned on and running after sitting on a shelf for 30 or 40 years. Anyway, just I mentioned that, like, it's becoming a very tough business. You can't even make minimum wage. Like, I'm doing this because I love the equipment, and there's very few people doing it, and I like to see the stuff get a good home rather than end up in the landfill. But then I can't raise my prices. Anyway, that's just something. I appreciate any comments on that. Thanks.